be more brave than you were in your age. Don't be afraid. Be a risk taker more than I was. Γεια σας, είμαι ο Βασίλης Φάτσης. I'm 77 years old and I've been presiding in the Ontario Court of Justice for 32 years. Prior to that, I was an immigration appeal judge in Canada. Also, I served at the Health Professions Review and Appeal Board of Ontario. I've been in the judicial system all of my professional life for about 32 years. I was very much involved in my own community as a volunteer. I was elected to the board of directors of the Greek community of Toronto, and I participated in about 17 Greek Canadian organizations, including being a founding director of the Hellenic Heritage Foundation and other big organizations in my community. I retired in 2016. However, I was able to work what is called per diem, as they call me, until August of 2021. On my retirement, I created an app. I created Greca TV, which is an app for the Greek diaspora worldwide, which I launched 3 years ago. I feel great. I have no problem with my age. You know, I feel extremely lucky that I reached this age. I have 2 wonderful children that have given me 5 grandchildren. My oldest granddaughter is 22. So it's a blessing that I reached this point to enjoy the major stations of my life. And other people are not as fortunate as I am to reach this stage, and they go relatively early in their life without enjoying the joys that I've enjoyed. So I'm grateful to my creator. I believe very much in a creator. Now, what name each culture gives it, it's immaterial, as long as it teaches goodness, as I believe the 4 major religions of the world do. I was born in a very small village in northwest Greece, only 5 kilometers from the Albanian border and close to the north, what it's now New Macedonia. There was a civil war in Greece from 1945. 44, 45 until 49. I was born at the end of the Civil War. A civil war means that brother is against brother of different ideology. The left wing with the right wing, and it was a very traumatic period of Greece's modern history. To give you an example, my father was in the opposite camp, so to speak, than his brother. It was a very tragic war, so I was born during that war. My mother gave birth to me in an army bunker, because at that time the British warplanes were bombarding our area and many kids were killed. And that's why through the Red Cross and especially through the left-wing or communist organizations, you know, most parents in the area registered their kids for their safety, and they were taken to different communist countries. My own siblings went to Romania, one to Czechoslovakia, others went, my first cousins went to Poland, others went to Tashkent in what used to be then the Soviet Union, or in present-day Ukraine. I grew up in a very, very poor family because my father was killed in this civil war when I was only 1 year old. So my mother at 33 had 5 children, no job, no money, And in order for us to survive, she was hand washing all the laundry of the local army unit. Initially were family reasons, because my older brother was here from 1960, and there was an issue that necessitated my trip to Canada then, because it was the insistence of my mother to make sure that everything is okay here with my brother. So when I came here, of course, soon after, a dictatorship took over in Greece. The army took over, that lasted for 7 years. Because I was involved in public issues in high school and university, and my mother was afraid with bad experiences from the civil war that caused the death of her husband. My father did not want me to return until the dictatorship was over, which was in 1974. By then, I had continued my studies at the University of Toronto. I had met my wife and made my family here, and the rest is history. I immigrated to Canada in 1966. It was very difficult, like every immigrant. I didn't speak the language at all, almost at all, just a few words here and there. I found out that the immigrants at that time, and it's very different society than it is now, because multiculturalism was not entrenched into Canada's Charter of Rights until 1981. The generations of the first immigrants were very, very difficult, and their primary concern, of course, was to make a living for themselves and perhaps sponsor the rest of the family. Usually the males, the father would immigrate first, make a home here, secure a job, and then sponsor, the wife and the children. Unfortunately, due to my commitments for family and studies and other professional necessities, I did not travel too much, other than Greece, of course, that I used to go almost every summer. I still do. The Greek islands and so forth. But here with my family, I travel most of the Caribbean islands, Mexico, here in North America, but in the United States, of course, Florida, and the obvious places, New York and so forth, Chicago, places like that, but not worldwide. When my wife and I and the family went to Cuba 3-4 times, I loved the Cuban people. Not only were they educated, they were very kind and very hospitable people. So I think my favorite people would have been the Cubans. If there is a message that I can give, is that enjoy every part of your life, because as long as you put it to good use, then the purpose is served. Every stage of our life has its beauty. Youth, family, later on professions, education, being a father, being a husband, be a grandfather, and so forth and so on. Every era has its purpose. And when our body ages and leaves us, because it never comes alone, we come to a point where we understand why we have to go. 60% at least, if not more, our life is full of sorrows. Happiness is the minority. So we try to do as much as we can in the happy parts. That should guide our philosophy of life, not the bad things. The bad things we cannot avoid. I don't know if I know the young generation. I make observations. I find that we live in an era where the young generation has been indoctrinated to easy life, because most of the parents, my generation, had the purpose of providing everything and easily to the new generation. So the new generation learn to enjoy life at the expense of somebody else, not their own creation. A big number of the youth rely on misinformation, on the technology, on the internet that is full of misinformation. They want the easy life, the quick life, as much as possible. They forgot the true values of life, and they have been indoctrinated, I think, to a large extent, that money is the real value of life. If you don't create money, you're nobody, and you'll be happy. And that's a fallacy that unfortunately many of them will find too late. The other thing I observe is that the new generation, not all of them, but a good number, they forgot what is to be kind to the next person. Whether you are driving, whether you're waiting for the bus stop, whether you're waiting in a lineup at a restaurant, you don't see the expression of kindness. The appearance seems to be everything. Not what you have inside, not what you have in the brain, but how can you attract the attention on you by tattoos all over your body or hooks everywhere you can hang it on? Okay, I understand that. Every generation has its peculiarities. Every generation. Mine, the ones before me, they had some strange thing that their parents didn't do, and I respect that. But then again, I have such a respect of the youth of today. They're more knowledgeable. The ones that, of course, have the responsibility to study and pursue valuable lives and pursuits, they are so much more advanced than any generation that I've observed or studied. They are very, very smart in everything they do. That's why many of the youth of today, employing the knowledge of the new technology, at a very early age, they become billionaires. But ahead from that few, generally, whether they become doctors or lawyers or scientists or anything else, or a merchant or a restaurant entrepreneur, they are knowledgeable in what they do that my generation youth never had. So I admire that very much. Oh, I would teach him all the knowledge I have now. If you're a young with the knowledge of an old person, there is not a bigger gift in life, because it's the greatest compass, that knowledge, to take you always to the good directions and horizons. The major Greek philosophy, I think, if I can summarize it, it's very difficult because it's very rich, extremely rich. But the core of it, I think, is the pursuit of truth. Truth always brings you to happiness. It brings you the truth about who you are, your inner world, how you treat somebody else and how you behave. If you're true in these things, it will lead you to happiness. And of course that comes with responsibility. You know, you don't ask something to be happy, you have to contribute to that happiness for yourself and somebody else. Not Looking for Trouble, it's my memoirs, my life story. From the time I was born to this date. My opponent for political office had written his memoirs, calling it Looking for Trouble. So based on that, I called mine Not Looking for Trouble. It's about over 640 pages. I donated it. I didn't write it to make money. I donated to York University's Greek chair, the Greek archives. Writing my memoirs, it was liberating in many respects. You see in black and white your life. It took me a long time the idea was introduced to me in 2014. My leader at the time when I was involved in politics was the former Prime Minister of Canada, the Honorable Joe Clark. We had dinner. I had met him for him to sign his memoir to me. And he suggested the idea, since I was the first immigrant to be involved in politics, in volunteerism, with my own community, in the judicial system, in Greek media and other things. He said, when I defended the policy of multiculturalism, he said it would be a wonderful book for other immigrants, for a pioneer like you, to write these thoughts and compare that era when you defended in 1982 the policy of multiculturalism in the political forum. Why not compare what it is now? That's a chapter by itself, you know. So he gave me the idea. I almost said no immediately, but out of politeness, I said, I'll think about it. And then 4 years went by until 2016, when I met in my court the previous Ontario Justice Minister, the Honorable Roy McMurtry, who had become the Ontario Court of Appeal of Ontario. On his retirement dinner that he invited me with a friend, he suggested that I do that as well. And he introduced the idea that he'll write the introduction to my book, and also the former Prime Minister of Greece, who introduced the idea to me, he will write an introduction. And then another cabinet minister wrote as well. So I have 3 very important Canadian figures honoring me with their introduction in my memoirs. The one that I had to deal with a lot of sensitivity is the sickness of my wife. My wife, unfortunately, at the age only of 62, was struck with Alzheimer's, which affected not only my life, but the life of my children and grandchildren. Unfortunately, to this day, now she's at an institution needing nursing medical attention every single day because she's in the last stage. So I had to think whether I mentioned that in my book, and I felt strongly that it's my obligation to share what I faced and what my family faces this issue, and how you treat a person with Alzheimer's or any other sickness. And the number 1 advice is extend love to them. That's all they need. I don't think I have any regrets, because it's my character to venture and do whatever I wanted. I was the lucky one to persist in what I wanted to do, and in everything I did, I succeeded. That's another secret to happiness, to pursue and not say, why did I do that? When you reach to an age that you cannot venture anything, that's the real regret then. And you say, why didn't I do that? Because most of us overlook the fact that failures are the biggest part of success. Unless you fail, you don't know how to succeed. So a lot of people, are afraid to try out of fear of failure. But that's the best thing you can do. You fail, you learn, as long as you learn, and then you go on to pursue whatever you wanted to do, so you have no regrets. So I have no regrets in my life.